Come on, load. There we go. It's your favorite time of the week. It's our favorite time of the week. This is Midweek Meltdown on a Tuesday.
But not just any Midweek Meltdown. Tonight is the kickoff to the 2026 Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. We are extremely blessed, humbled to be a part of this. And we're not just going to have one guest on tonight. We're going to have two. We're giving you a twofer.
Ooh, I love a twofer.
Without further ado, we have – hold on. Let me get my notes up. I got to be professional with this. We have Luke Roberts, the media coordinator for the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we have big-time Jim Harris, the executive director of the Independent St. Louis Hall of Fame. So, Mr. Guns, bring him on.
Hold on.
Hold on. They're coming. Oh, there's one.
My goodness.
Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to switch it? Okay.
Okay. No, we got to emphasize the tag team like I was saying before this. Beauty, love, everything. We are TLC. Welcome, gentlemen. I am so excited. Our first time Hall of Famers. Holy shit.
This is true.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having us on.
Oh, God.
So, I got to ask.
Make it weird.
I'm not going to make it weird.
We were
talking about this, and I'm gonna aim it at Luke Roberts real quick. For somebody who does the Independence Hall of Fame, you have a lot of luchador masks. And I said it in the briefing. I'm just going to start with it now. You're Mount Rushmore of luchadors.
Ooh. You're starting that already?
I'm going to start it right now.
Spicy.
Talk about swinging for the fences right off the bat. I'm going to tell you right.
Damn, I thought I had a good question, but you plowed through that.
Well, first of all, gentlemen, thank you for having us here on the program tonight. I got to tell you right now, my first one, without question, is going to be El Santo. I mean, if you're talking lucha, you got to talk about the man who many people consider to be the cornerstone, the original. You got to look at that. I would personally look at number two just because of, and again, a lot of people don't necessarily agree with his reputation. I've heard from many different stories about would be Mil Mascaras.
Ooh.
Again, I've heard a lot of stories. Every time I think about that, I also think about the Clash of the Champions where Mick Foley took that Nestea plunge to the floor. And I remember Jim Cornette saying, "Oh my, he's dead." I remember that from what was there. Looking back here, number three, I would probably have to go with Blue Demon. Again, a phenomenal in-ring competitor. And the fourth one's going to stun a lot of people, primarily because of the fact that you have three more of the old school. If I'm going to put a Lucha Libre Mount Rushmore, I would be remiss if I didn't say number four to be the one, the only Rey Mysterio.
I was waiting for it.
What I was waiting for it. Yep.
And most people put Ray higher up on the list, but when I think of like Mount Rushmore's, and I said it in while we were talking in the back room, we like the older style wrestling. We're more of like the territories and the storytelling, and a lot of the guys you listed, I don't think get the limelight that they deserve because it's so far back.
It's very. What is yours? I want to know yours.
Well, for my Rushmore, I don't do the mask guys like Luke does. He's the king of the mask guys.
Yeah, go with it.
If I'm looking at stuff like Magnum TAs, and I'm looking at I ran around with like the Von Erichs group. So
holy shit.
You look at Kevin, and Kevin was interesting when I met him and worked with him a little bit. And then you go back a little bit farther, you say, do I take an Ice King Parsons over somebody like the Magnum TA? Magnum TA to me had more of the gumption to go and was ready to go.
Yeah.
And then, I watched a lot of those guys come up. You look at the Briscoe brothers when they were coming through.
Ooh.
And then you go back and look at the Hearts when they were coming up through the system.
I'm not a Hearts fan. Pony Boy will admit that. I'm not a Hearts guy.
Okay. I wasn't 100% a fan of them either. I like the British Bulldogs more than I did the Hearts.
I'm a Shawn Michaels. Like, out of all of them, Diesel and Shawn Michaels, holy shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. So, I like the classic battles like the Freebirds, Von Erichs,
God damn. Yes.
Chris Adams. I remember when they came into town, I drove them around in my little old blue Oldsmobile I had. And I drove them around to different shows. And
I got a Ranger. You ain't no stranger when you got a Ranger.
I had a 69 blue Olds Cutlass.
Ooh. Okay.
That time.
Ranger's a piece of shit vehicle, so Pony Boy can say that.
Yeah, he does. Now, Jim, you brought up Kevin Von Erich, and we got some information. We did our homework. You refereed a match for Kevin Von Erich back in the day.
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Now, which Von Erich was your favorite?
Well, Kevin's the only one I really met.
Okay.
I always did like Kerry. I just like his style and how he was doing stuff. David, I've seen David when we were down live at the Kiel, when he's still at the Kiel, and I watched David and Harley race them duke it out. Watch those battles. But Kevin was
barefooted there.
Yes, he did.
Barefoot. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, okay. He still does to this day. Yeah, he'll still barefooted.
I think
that's broken toes, brother.
Is it his grandchildren or his nephews that are in AEW? I think they do the whole barefoot.
They're in tag team too, right?
I think it's Marshall. It's the one that does the barefoot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's Curtis' daughters that were doing some stuff as well. Because we had them up for Hall of Fame years and years ago at MMWA when I was there. So yeah.
And then you both, we kind of did our homework on both you guys, and both of you guys have a very impressive resume.
Not even tag team wise. Like, you guys are behind the scenes. You guys are like everywhere. I mean, like, you're wrestling. You are wrestling. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
You've done it all. You've done it all.
I always leave the history stuff to my sidekick over there. He's the guru there that if I don't hold him back, he'll talk us to death when nobody get a word in.
That's what we like.
You see why he's the media director, though. See, he's got it covered. I ain't got to worry about nothing.
Something, guys, you talk about tag teams. I want to go back at the top of the program. You talk about Youth Gone Wild. And I'm going to tell you right now, here in the St. Louis area, when you mention a team like them, there were two names here in the St. Louis area that definitely crossed my mind. That would be potential I would love to see, because I've seen Youth Gone Wild through the wonderful world of YouTube. I would like to see them, number one, wrestle a team that you guys are probably very familiar with across this country and across North America, Youth Gone Wild taking on the Hooligans.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Take my money. Hold on, I got to go get my wallet. You know what? I'm going to have to message them after this. Like, hey, you guys were brought up within the first 10 minutes.
No, you know what I'm going to say? Fucking Youth Gone Wild versus Jim Harris and Luke Roberts. I want to see that shit. You know me, I'm against Youth Gone Wild, okay? They're Youth Gone Mild for me. You guys need to whoop their ass. Like, Tom, if you're listening, you're gonna get your ass whooped. Me and Tom, it's a Tom and Tom battle. We really like.
Sometimes
it's horrible. It's horrible.
My God, I can't with him sometimes. Okay, so you have a very extensive history with wrestling. You have been doing it for many, many years.
They are wrestling.
I have to ask, what got you into wrestling? What caused you to fall in love with this sport? Because everybody's story is pretty much different. And, to be a part of wrestling for as long as you both have, that's got to be some deep, deep love.
Well, as you said before, I'm going to make the tag to the executive director Jim Harris on this one because, as he said, I got a pretty lengthy story, but I think it's one of those that your listeners and your viewers are going to have that trip down memory lane. So, Jim, I'm going to give you the floor as I always do.
You see how this works, right? So I'm going to get the old guy out of the way so we can talk.
This is the tag team right here. This is tag right here. Like,
I think we're going to steal that from you guys going forward. Whenever somebody's got to talk, we're going to tag.
Yeah.
Pony, raise your hand. Raise your hand real quick.
When I started off, it was like I remember going to church with my grandmother, and I always had a choice which service did you want to go to. I always want to go to the early service. I had to get back in time and watch my wrestling at the Chase.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock. And so I grew up with Bulldog Bob Browns and Kaninsky's and the Flairs and all that were coming through there. Gorgeous George was kind of before my time, but that's okay.
That was my grandma's favorite wrestler. That's why
I know what? I feel that was a little rude, so he gets
It's okay. It's okay. But so growing up through that, and you grew up in it, and it was what you talked about. It's what everybody did. And then I got lucky enough to have somebody in our neighborhood that was actually doing the local wrestling. And at that time, MMWA was going to a place like was called the White House. We were trying. Yeah, I'm showing my age, Luke. I know. So we were traveling to the White House.
You're still beautiful, baby. You're still beautiful. I think I'm looking at two models right now. Like, oh my god. Wait, how old are you? 22, right?
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Yeah, 22 plus going. Yeah, that's it. And so his wrestling name was Slick Rick Robertson. He was out of he hailed out of Canada. So at that time we were training back room with the South Broadway Athletic Club, which is where I started at. And at that time they had this big old ring in there, low ceiling. So every time we get picked up for something, my head always hit that damn ceiling.
There was no high rope spots.
Right. And so he always told me, well, you got a duck. I said, you can't do that in the ring in a match, So that's how I kind of got started into it. And then I ended up working for state penitentiaries and stuff. I ended up getting injured, so I couldn't wrestle like I wanted to. And promoter didn't want to let me go because I had the background and experience. So I was asked to come in.
What was your injury exactly? Not to interrupt you, I'm just curious.
Well, we had a small riot kick off in one of the house units that somebody brought a bunch of alcohol to inmates and got them intoxicated.
Oh,
yeah, that's fun.
I remember going down 2 flights of stairs with an inmate each arm swinging all the way down the steps. So
holy shit.
I ended up with a back injury, and that slowed my roll for a minute. And my job.
I've been hit by a chair. That's nothing compared to that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So my job is, and I did some of the local work at the jails and stuff here, and I got 30 plus years law enforcement. So.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And my job was to extract the people out of cells that didn't want to come out. So I would assist them coming out of the cell.
Good evening, Nikki. We will. Speaking of that, we're going to bring her up in a little bit later.
You know what's funny?
Hi, Nikki.
Nikki.
You know what's funny about our podcast is we pretty much have a good female audience for wrestling. That is weird, right? Like we have like 4 or 5. That's pretty good for wrestling.
It's this.
There you go. That's awesome.
It's the beard. So
from there, I took over as a referee, and I worked with different guys. I worked with the Smith family on some things, and Ed Smith, who was the referee of the Chase.
Tom's last name is Smith.
Yeah. Well, we won't go there. We'll check it out later. we'll run an NIC. We'll see where we're at there. But like I said, then I got involved in that, and Ed kept me on track and kept me going right. And he always told me, be your own person. Don't try to be like these other people, and make your own way. So I made my way as being that referee that's like, no, I don't take no crap. This is my ring. You're going to do it the way I say do it, and that's how it's going to be. And so kind of went from there, and then got sick along the way, developed severe RA, so I went ahead and retired out of the ring while I was still strong. And so I was over 30 plus years in the ring, and then was asked to be a commissioner for a local group. So I was doing work as a commissioner and booking and all that good fun stuff. So now I'm going to tag it over to Luke.
1, 2, 3, 4. I broke before 5. Now, first of all, before I go any farther along, I'm going to tell you right now, being around wrestling as long as I have, and I've known Jim for many, many years, Jim has probably 2 of the largest hands in the world. And based on the story that's there, I would not even imagine somebody wanting to cause any chaos with Jim, because he would probably, as they say, lay the smack down on anybody in nothing but about 7 seconds, and that'd be the end of anything. So I wouldn't go against Jim. That's for sure.
His little hands.
But put that little thing away. I'm gonna put it away for now.
Well, like I said, gentlemen, when we talk about pro wrestling, a lot of what I did and got me involved in professional wrestling was a lot like Jim. I grew up back in the early 80s, and the real first connection I had was kind of twofold. One was I would have to go every other weekend. My mom and my dad would always take me to a little itty-bitty hole-in-the-wall town called Piedmont, Missouri. It was about 2 hours away from the St. Louis area. And the big thing was, I would remember at 5 o'clock, it didn't matter what was going on. Dinner had to be on the TV trays. My grandmother had to be in her recliner. My dad had to be in my grandfather's recliner. My mom had to be on the couch. And I had to be sitting on the most obnoxiously hard, orange-brown shag carpet you could ever imagine.
You deserve it.
Yeah, if I was a young
Grandma
one.
needs a spot, brother.
Very true, very true. But the thing was, though, it was back really before the cable era. And it was the idea where, with maneuvering the rabbit ears, a little bit of tinfoil here and there, they were able to get a very strong signal from WTBS. And that was what really kind of drew me into the professional wrestling world on one side, because my grandma was huge into wrestlers like Ole Anderson, like Thunderbolt Patterson, like the Briscoes. And I could go on and on, Paul Jones, among others.
Jesus.
But about the same time, my brother was also huge into the wrestling at the Chase era, but he wasn't really the 60s and 70s. He was more mid to late 70s, early 80s, right before the Matisic transition. And that was, I mean, again, when you have grandma watching it, you have your older brother watching it, that's where you're at. And ironically, Jim talks about Rick Robertson and events at the White House there. I believe it's in Afton, Missouri, for those that are familiar.
Everyone smile real quick.
Yeah.
Snapchat. You know what I mean.
But if we look at what's here, though, I mean, again, I had an opportunity. My brother is a very big guy. I mean, Jim's known my brother for years. My brother got into wrestling by the same man who trained me, a gentleman by the name of John Blackheart, a man who, if you get a chance to find any of his footage on Facebook, you need to watch. He is to wrestling in the St. Louis area what Flair was to the traveling scene. He was that good. Wow. He was that smooth.
Damn.
But to give you the idea of when we actually went to the South Broadway Athletic Club, which a lot of people say, oh, well, there's all these different local independents. The South Broadway Athletic Club is the place for St. Louis wrestling. It's just that simple. They've been around now. And Jim, if I'm correct, the building's been standing almost 100 years now.
Yeah, actually over 100 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over 100 years. And I mean, again, having the opportunity to go into that building, and again, hearing the stories, what Jim said, being where you're training, you can't do anything, basically much higher than the ropes. But again, once that happened, and getting to see wrestlers, the likes of the Giant Assassin, like the late Roger Bailey, Big Daddy, a man who was just beyond phenomenal as a manager, wrestlers like Lunatic Max. He talked about having connections with Ed Smith. I've had the opportunity, when you talk about the Smith family in pro wrestling, I've had the opportunity to be in the ring with all 3 generations. Ed, his son Keith Sr., and his son Keith Jr. now making his way into the world of professional wrestling. And like I said, it's one of those, when you come down to being a professional wrestler and being involved in professional wrestling, one thing a lot of people understand is even though you're a competitor, you're also a fan. Yeah. And that's one of those that really got me hooked in, and having the opportunity to wrestle and be around pro wrestling as much as I had been. Again, if it wouldn't have been for Georgia Championship Wrestling, for the South Broadway Athletic Club, for promotions like CSWA, among others, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And, I kind of want to, and it's kind of funny. Everybody's story of why they got into wrestling is different. But after hearing your guys's and mine and Tom's, it always comes down to it was a family thing. With it being such a family thing, why do you think it comes down to that? I mean, whether it be like with your grandma or your dad or your brothers. I mean, me, I go back as far as granted, I was born in '92. I'm a baby, so don't shoot the messenger. But I remember sitting there with my dad watching it, and my mom would be very, very upset when he would put WWF on. She was okay with WCW, but with WWF, however,
to be fair, they weren't that better. WCW.
You can't go that far. You go WCCW. You go, you start looking at stuff like that, and then you start looking around. I mean, a lot of our folks, we grew up around a lot of it. And you found out that you asked around, some of your neighbors were involved in somewhere down the line. So
it's true.
For something as big as wrestling is, and in the past it was like the territories and this and that. Why do you think something this big was just at the core of it was just such a family bonding experience?
I got to say, to me, it was one of those where it was back in the day where the family could truly see that these were wrestlers. You hadn't, as I say, break the fourth wall. You haven't pulled the curtain back. And you would see wrestlers that could go out there and just instigate people. I mean, I remember hearing stories about, and we hear it on all these different documentaries and whatnot, about fans stabbing people with hat pins, or wanting to go after them with knives, or wanting to storm the ring, or things like that. That shows that performance. That shows the idea of being able to draw your attention to what the actual sport is. And again, a lot of people say, and I use the line from Shane Douglas, it's not sports entertainment, it's the sport of professional wrestling. And to look at things from that perspective, I mean, again, it drew my grandmother into it. It drew my mom and dad into it. It drew my dad into regularly watching it. It drew my brother and I into it. And actually, interesting side note, and I didn't even talk to you about the sport when on the air, my nephew is a retired competitor. He actually was on the Big Little Brawlers program that was on Discovery.
Wow.
Gentleman, his name was Ivar the Micro. That is my nephew by marriage. That's my nephew.
Tommy's looking it up. Tommy's looking it up right now.
Ivar the Micro. Again, it's one of those where it was that connection. We could all see who were our favorites, who were the good guys, the one that you wanted to cheer to no end, and who were the guys that you wanted to boo to make it a point that they didn't get the win. And again, it was just that realism that, I mean, nowadays, like, oh, it's pro wrestling. No, it's still the idea of two individuals. It's that timeless classic of good and evil. And that's the way it has been, and that's the way it's always going to be.
Yeah. Now, that's what we always carried it. So, yeah, that's how we believed in.
So, Jim, my question's for you now. Luke brought up the whole the fans getting involved, trying to see how. Lately in professional wrestling, we're seeing a lot of it from the indies. There was actually a situation up in the Chicagoland area a couple months back at the Berwyn's Eagles Club. Even in the pros, you're seeing a lot of these fans pressing their luck and going over the barricade with the talent. What do you think is causing that? And I mean, it's happening more now than it has in the past.
Well, a lot of times it's because I've had to tackle a few fans in my time. I've knocked a few off the ring, and I flattened one or two of them. Yeah, it's
okay.
I don't know. They feel emboldened. They think they can match up with these wrestlers. That it's all fake. They don't know how to really fight and stuff. And the reality is, those guys are tough. They're strong at what they do. They're damn good at what they do. And if you want to go one-on-one with a wrestler, you're going to probably lose that battle pretty quick. And that's the problem with pulling the curtain back and seeing what is going on, because they're fake. They're not athletes. They don't know how to wrestle. It's all play acting. And reality is, you work your butt off, because I was also a trainer. I trained with these guys. I trained them. They trained me. I was one of the lead trainers down at our group, and we worked just as hard as any wrestler did, and you couldn't even be a referee for me unless you trained as hard as wrestlers did. And,
I can attest to that. Like I've done a little bit of in-ring training years back, and you think you're fit, you think you're in shape, you think your cardio is up to par. Hell no.
My cousin was a wrestler for us, and I used to work the hell out of him. He loved to smoke them Paul Malls. That's an old school we're talking. And I would work the hell out of him. He'd be sweating to death. Hardly catch his breath. He goes, "Damn, cuz, you trying to kill me?" I said, "Well, get off that crap. You won't have that issue." I go back in there, give me 20 more. Let's go. We ain't done yet. You know. So
old schoolness. That's what it is. So I kind of want to aim that we're gonna tag it up. We're gonna go back to. Can
I ask?
What do you want? Go ahead.
What was the worst reaction you guys got? Like as heels, like getting bottles thrown at you, stuff like that.
Here's got a story.
What is the worst?
I'm taking Luke in.
Okay, I got one, and it's one I can share. We may have to come back with tables, letters, and chatter to the uncensored stories for that one.
No.
The first one I had, I was wrestling for a little independent promotion. It was called Missouri Championship Wrestling, and it was in a town called Union, Missouri. And they had me, of all people, wrestling my brother in the opening match. They were having a tournament to ultimately crown their first champion. Now, to give you an idea, when I was in the ring, at the time I was about 5'10", about 140 pounds. It was right about the time of the real cruiserweight boom in WCW. My brother's 5'10", weighing in just a smidge over this many. And I was told by the promoter to go out there and make sure that those people knew who I was walking out the building. Like, okay, fine. So I go out there and I'm doing all this, trying to channel Rick Rude, even though I had no muscle mass whatsoever.
Did you do the shake?
I tried. I tried. It wasn't perfect, but I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, I'm wrestling the match, and every time out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy who's about 6'6".
Ooh.
And he keeps getting this look that he just starts getting redder. And every time I would be on the offense, he'd keep getting redder and redder and redder. And I'm like, when I lost, I'm there on the mat, and the referee is like sitting there looking at me and going, yeah, I'm walking with you because this guy looks like he's going to go after you. I'm like, okay. So I go backstage, come back out intermission to sell merchandise. That's the standard in professional wrestling. I come back out, and I had this monster handprint from a huge shot. And I'm sitting there, and I'm wearing it like a badge of honor, and I turn around, and I walk into this guy, and this guy looks like he's going to try to rip my head off. Thankfully, we had security there. I'm in the locker room like, okay, my night's done. Give me my pay envelope. Let me go. And all of a sudden, the promoter comes back. Yeah, you got to go. I'm like, why? What do you mean what I do? And I looked through, because it was on a stage. I looked through the curtain. They're holding this guy at the entryway.
Holy shit.
He's wanting to come back in the locker room. So I go back. My brother is driving this big old Econoline van, and I'm just sitting there hanging out in the back of the van. And then at the end of the show, once everybody leaves, my brother tells me the guy that I had gotten angry was the mayor of the town.
Oh! Oh!
And the one that I was primarily trying to channel Rick Rude was his wife.
You know, sometimes
you're gonna go big. Don't go halfway.
Exactly.
I know nothing of anybody's
sometimes you
wife.
just gotta hit them with.
Pony Boy can say, like, I know nothing of somebody else's wife, right, Pony Boy?
We're keeping this PG-13 tonight, buddy.
So,
same question for Jim. You know, you've been in the business for so long. You got to have at least one standout moment where somebody wants to get after you.
Well, not much as me as it did some of the wrestlers I was with. A lot of times I would get called to go to shows, and some of the wrestlers would ask me to go because they wanted me to be there for their refereeing purposes. So there's a lot of shows I went to as their personal referee, I guess you could say. And it never fails. I went to a couple shows with a guy named Ron Powers. If you look him up, Ron's the one that spiked pile drive me in the middle of the ring one night. And
but that felt so good.
Oh yeah, that was just a wonderful night. But it never failed. He when he went heel, I think I was tagged on the person of the night, if not two. And then we had another one named Night Train Gary Jackson. And so those guys all worked some of the big shows and stuff as well. And we went to a small town, and you know anything about southern Missouri small towns. Gary was not always a welcome person there. And we had a point where Gary's a super guy, man. What a great athlete, what an awesome talent, and amazing guy. He kept me straight on several times, you know. And there was a time when we had to sneak out of town. We had to Tony get back, because we had like 10 or 15 people ready to jump in the ring on us, and we had to actually clear out and get Gary out as quick as we could. And and yeah, I mean, I got all kinds of those kind of stories. I mean, in South Florida, I've been out in the street breaking up fights in the street and in the hallways, and then sometimes it was wives and girlfriends battling over guys. I've been all
I was a bouncer. I was a bouncer for a good long while, so I understand it. You know, but it's got to give you like a good feeling, because as my opinion with it, and I hear it all the time in wrestling locker rooms. Wrestling is for a brief escape from reality, and for you guys, whether you're a referee, you're a talent, you're a social media producer, you're an executive producer, when you physically see the audience get that involved and wrapped up in it, that they want to be involved in it, that's got to put you guys on cloud nine.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I would do the bookings and we were doing matches, and the promoter allowed me to work a little more, doing that more often and working with him. And I had 2 or 3 of them that say, "Jim, you threw me a curve. I wasn't expecting that one. I didn't know where that even came from." I wasn't expecting that. And that makes you feel awesome that you're doing something that you got them hooked. And something happened that they weren't even expecting. And they're like, "Man, I was expecting this, and you went a whole different route on me." It didn't happen. So, you know, it's like, then you know you did something right. And that's why I tell everybody, says, the guys that me and Luke know, they could give you the biggest heat in the world and not say one cuss word.
Yep.
Not say one cuss word. You'd be so mad you want to kill them, but they didn't say one cuss word to you. Didn't do none of the chopping, the privates, all that stuff. No fingers in the air, telling how you're number one, or your IQ, as they would tell you. But those guys could bring the biggest heat, and it's so amazing. And it's not just all the groups I've worked; they've always had somebody that could do that, and I've been fortunate to be around a bunch of those.
Well, you know, Jim, I got one more to throw out there, too. I remember an event several years ago, and Jim and I are both very familiar with it because we've both been a part of this event. It was a part of the Cinco de Mayo Festival here in the St. Louis area. And
going back to the Luchadors. Going back to the Luchadors.
Yeah. Well, no, it was the idea of where, I mean, this is probably, I think, Jim, if I must say, I believe it's the second largest, or if not the largest, gathering for Cinco de Mayo in the United States. They average over like 40,000 people over 2 days. They block off like 4 blocks of town. I mean, it's phenomenal. And Jim talked about the people that you know would be, and they've got it. There was a gentleman at the time, it was election time, and a certain individual who's president of the United States now, was running for office, and he noticed that they had this great big giant It wasn't a pinata, but it had to have been at least 10 foot tall.
Okay.
And they had it off the main drag. I don't know what people's thoughts were of it, but definitely did not fit in to what the festival was all about. The guy makes and notices it and uses that, using something that's completely not involved with the event. And instantly, I've never seen a crowd. And at the time, the crowd was, I think they said it was about 750 at the time.
That's a big crowd.
They were sitting there, and this was back just when drone technology was really starting to kind of hit big with wrestling shows. And they came back for the match that he had, this gentleman in the main event, and we had probably doubled that because of him being observant. Never had to say a cuss word, never had to say anything, never had to do anything that would be inappropriate. I mean, as far as like language or things like that. But again, that's one of the things that I love about pro wrestling is because it invokes genuine emotion. And the two that Jim talked about, Ron Powers was one, the Night Train, some know him as Gorgeous. Roger Bailey was another, the Giant Assassin. There are a lot of great wrestlers who could sit there and just walking into the building. I mean, I remember one other one too. And Jim, you would know this. When people would walk in, and there was a gentleman who's in our Hall of Fame, the Giant Assassin.
Oh yeah, shave your back.
Yeah, the shave your back chant, because he had enough back hair that would make George the Animal Steel blush.
The bald.
He had a sweater. He had a 24/7 sweater.
Yep.
Nice.
And he was perceived.
It was amazing.
Again, it's just the idea of people who can do that. That's what wrestling can truly be.
And I want to bring that up because, like I said, one of the bigger promotions that we're partnered with up in our neck of the woods is Rocket Pro Wrestling, and they are extremely adamant about like family like. Yeah, you'll get it like a little PG-13 swear word here or there. You'll get the finger gestures, but they don't overkill it like
they'll
some
say
of the other.
Bitch.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, buddy. But
thank you for sharing.
PG-13.
But they keep it to a point where everybody can have a good time. There's something for everybody. But then you have other independent promotions that try to do the shock and awe factor. With your personal and professional opinions, which one is better for the independent like world as a whole?
To me, I look at it from a perspective of everybody has their own niche. And I know it's not necessarily the answer people want to hear, but in St. Louis right now, the last time I checked, there were 13 promotions in the St. Louis area. Some of them, to give you an idea, though, there are some promotions that will go out there and give you the traditional wrestling promotions like the MMWA, like SICW, like Dynamo Pro Wrestling. Then you have some promotions that'll take it a little more over the top. You've got promotions like a Pro Wrestling Epic. You've got promotions like I was trying to think of a couple others here. Some would say at times St. Louis Anarchy pushes that far. But, I mean, again, everybody has their own little niche. And when it comes down to it, to me, I've been more of a traditionalist. I agree with Jim 100%. You don't need this really over-the-top, oh, well, I did this because so-and-so did this to me and da-da-da-da-da. No. Professional wrestling, at its simplest point, is telling the story. And right now, as it stands, that's the way it should be to me when it comes to pro wrestling. Am I going to say no to going to an event? No, because I see what all these other wrestlers have. And again, shout out to promotions like CHWA, like St. Louis Anarchy, like WLW, among others, like IEW, that go out there and they make their own statement. And lately, there's been a lot of nights where we've had 4 and 5 promotions all going, and right now, everybody's selling out. And that's what pro wrestling is the story of good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jim, kind of feeding off of that question, in the past couple of years, the popularity and the want and the desire for independent wrestling has increased. is that because it's more of a relatable product, or is it because WWE or TNA or AEW has just gone so off the rails with whether it be the pricing or the locations? What is your opinion why independent wrestling is skyrocketed?
Well, under the independent circuit, you're not going to see what I call the soap operas. It's hard for me to watch the wrestling nowadays because to me it's more talking than it is wrestling. Fans come out to see wrestling. They don't come out to see you talk. They want to see action. They want to see something going on in the ring. They want to see the story in the ring. And to me, that's the way it should be. When you have storylines that take up 10 to 15 minutes of your show of talking and there's no wrestling, you lose a fan. Especially fans here in Missouri, especially St. Louis area. If you're going to sit there and talk all night, you're going to get up and start walking out on it because that's not what they're there for. They're there to boo their heels and to cheer their heroes, and they're there to get away from what's going on out in the world. They're in another world that they don't want to be bothered with what's going on out there. And if you're coming in there running a soap opera, or if it takes you that long to tell a story that you got to take 5-10 minutes out of a match just to tell a story, then you're not doing what needs to be done because the fans aren't here for that. They're here for the action. They want to see what's going on. They want to hear the slaps and the yells and the screams and the slaps hurt. Across the road, you know. Yeah, they hurt, but that's what they want. That's what they want, you know. So to me, that's part of my issue with it is because it's just too much soap opera and not enough wrestling.
You know, I've never heard it put that way, but I gotta fully agree with that one. You know, there's a couple promotions up this way from RPW to Wrestle League to ARW to Ego Pro Wrestling, and some of them
we don't talk about Ego.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, I'll be a fair guy. We're talking promotions. Some promotions do a good 5-6 month stint and tell the story, but then there are other companies that do an event every 3-4 months. Which one benefits the company? The storylines or the 3-4 months where you can bring in bigger names to get that off factor and that draw?
For us, it's storylines. If I can run a storyline, and I used to tell my guys, don't waste the time in the ring to tell a story. If you want to do that, you got Facebook, TikTok, Twitters, and all those. Do that on those platforms. So if you got the fans following you and watching you, you can do all that on your platforms. So the time you come to the ring, short comments, more wrestling. You know, that's the way I've always asked our guys to do it. That's because we don't want to sit there and give. Hell, most of our shows are 3 hours long sometimes. So I don't want to take up time of talking. They want to see wrestling. So do all that on your platforms. Stay away from the politics and all that other stuff. Yeah. Use your platform strictly to tell your story against the opponent you're going with that week or that next week or month or whatever. Tell the story that way. So then when you get in the ring, it's about, let me now tell the story in the ring by showing my actions. And that's why I was always looking.
And Jim, I want to echo that. There's been 2 matches that register with me. A lot of promotions in the St. Louis area are running every 3 to 4 weeks, and I can think about one that I was involved with several years ago. It was almost a year between the Wind of Destruction Mikaze, Sadie Blaze, a man who was inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, and a gentleman by the name of Lights Out Adrian Surge. And these 2 gentlemen, for a year, it was always one of those like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. Right about the time Dusty would just barely be grabbing for Ric Flair's hair, the Horseman pull him out, or JJ would pull him out, or Baby Doll would pull him out so that it wouldn't happen. It just kept building. It's like, when is this going to happen? When's he going to finally get his hands on him? And when they finally had that chance to hook it up, and again, we actually were able to use the social media platforms to show the video, and they posted it about 2-3 hours before we went live, and they actually had screens for our event, which is very rare on an independent show. Yeah. And I remember I was the man who was calling commentary, and I remember 2 things being said. "Oh, you're in trouble now," from one of the fans that was out there, And then as soon as his music hit and the good guy hit the stage, I can't repeat on this program what they said, but it was something about.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, well, I know I could, but it's one of those. One of those kicking some booty, and going from there.
Okay, yeah.
And the other one, to give you an idea too, just a couple months ago, there was a gentleman named Jalen Strong. And again, that's a name right now. I'm just going to say it right now. If you get a chance to catch Jalen Strong in the ring, you need to do it, because this man is going to do great things in the world of professional wrestling. He wrestled a gentleman by the name of Mike Outlaw, who Jim can tell you is one of the measuring sticks in St. Louis. Mike can go with anybody, and after the match, they went 30 minutes, and it's like, oh, well, it was like 22 or 23. No, I was sitting there at the timekeeper's table. They went a legitimate 30 minutes, and that's not entrances. That was bell to bell.
Wow.
And
you don't see that a lot no more.
And to give you an idea, Jim said the wrestling will be what's there. The next month, there were approximately 20 more people in the seats, because they knew that was the kind of wrestling they were going to see at that event. And that's the thing. The storytelling, the social media, all that kind of stuff is great. But when you step inside the ring, you step inside the 20 by 20 squared circle, that's what the fans pay to see. And that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
So, are you guys fans of gimmick matches by any chance?
Depends on the gimmick and if it's the storyline.
So I'm gonna throw this out there, and it was one of the most oddball matches I've ever seen, and it was at Rocket Pro Wrestling for their season finale. It was a Battle for Hogwarts style match. Now let me explain. Now again, Maximus Orion, he's one of their talents. He he's also, his name is Will Shelley. He's also one of the owners. He's a big Harry Potter guy. So he was able to incorporate this 3-year feud with one of the managers, and it was basically 3 things on a pole match, and it was probably one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. And I see the look in both of your faces right now. It was one of those where you sit there and go, okay, wait a minute, how are they going to do this? But it was able to, and again, wrestling fans, all of us are nerds at some point or another. It had Harry Potter, it had fantastic wrestling, great spots, and a lightsaber.
Perfect.
I'm gonna add one here to you, and this is gonna show, taking it from where you're at with the lightsaber. There was a promotion here in St. Louis called GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling, and I'm gonna give a shout out to my broadcast colleague, my longtime friend Jim Yunt, Evil Jim Yunt, who was very much a part of GCW at the time, and was also a huge Star Wars fan. And they actually had the Star Wars death match. And they came out. Oh no, it gets better. They came out with stormtroopers. They came out with lightsabers. They came out with Darth Vader. They came out with Darth Maul. And then right before things finally wrapped up, they had all these people out at ringside, and then they brought out somebody in a Jar Jar Binks costume.
Nope, I'm out. Nope.
Well, no, you'll appreciate this. Everybody, didn't matter who it was. Everybody turned on Jar Jar Binks. So,
oh my God.
I did what's there. The other one I have to say, as Jim was talking about, given the situation, I remember there was a match back earlier in my career. It was a Fans Bring the Weapons match. And ironically, one of our inductees, the Beast, was involved in that matchup. Okay. And this match brought everything you could think of. They put everything in a Foot Locker. And they picked a fan at ringside to hold the key to the Foot Locker. Too bad that the man who was holding the key to the Foot Locker was my best friend at his first show. Beast threatens him for the key, draws his hand back, and my buddy's like, here's the key. And they finally start going through things. I remember that the biggest things that they had, one was they had a chicken pot pie that had been in the Foot Locker for about 3 hours, so it was good and thawed and made a mess.
Yeah.
And then the guy who was wrestling said, well, I'm going to one-up you. The fans brought in from the parking lot. They had brought in the sign for the handicap parking. And the post.
How?
And the concrete anchor.
I have seen some fans bring the weapons, and I have seen them from bowling balls to rubber chickens to untalkables. Some of them are weird, but a full post and how?
I didn't ask. All I know is these two men went at it, and they basically used everything they possibly could to get what was there, and that's what the fans wanted. And again, there are a lot of things that are good, but then again, you turn around and you get your matches like your kennel from your kennel matches, you get your prison matches, you get your multiple briefcase or multiple presents on poles or things like that. It's got to have some semblance as to what's going on.
You know, and again, it was something that was just so out of the norm, and it's on YouTube. So if you ever get bored, and like again, I give these guys so much credit. I couldn't stop laughing. It was just so entertaining.
We gotta talk about that. Then talk about Pete Madden in the tree he wrestled.
Yeah, that's true. He wrestled a match at Dynamo Pro Wrestling. It was the 5-year GCW reunion. And he actually went out. There was a gentleman by the name of Johnny Greenpeace who was managed by a tree. And he would bring a potted tree to the ring. And to give you an idea, Pete Madden actually was locked in a figure 1, not a figure 4. We were told it was a figure 1 by the potted tree. And the fans cheered. The fans chanted for the tree.
The tree. Yeah.
And this is why wrestling fans are a special breed. It may not make sense to the outside world, but if you're in that arena, whether it's a big arena or a gymnasium, if it makes sense and you get that pop, you can't go away from it.
No. Very true, gentlemen.
So, gentlemen, it's getting to be a certain part of the hour where the big reason why we are here, the big kickoff for the 2026 Independent the St. Louis Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's a tongue twister. And of course, I can never get it right the first time.
St. Louis Hall of Fame.
Shut up! I'm getting corrected by
St. Louis Hall of Fame. St. Louis Hall of Fame. St. Louis. Okay.
I was gonna mute him. You both yourselves are inductees of this. We have a massive card of guests coming on from now till July. Mr. Executive Director, what can we expect out of the 2026 class?
Wow, you got a mixture of people you will not believe until you start talking to them. Especially if you get to talk to the Beast, you're going to get some great stories.
Tommy's like all giddy.
He's 36-year career. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any way that we could? I'm just going to throw it this way because I know for a fact he's probably listening somewhere, and I know I'm officially going to wind up being off the Christmas card list for this one.
Yeah.
The idea of where we've heard so many stories about the Beast and his love affair with Tom Jones.
Oh,
I love Tom Jones.
Why not?
I love Tom Jones.
Oh,
yeah, Tom Jones is great.
Let me put this out there, Beast. This is Luke, okay? So when you come to the hall, Luke Roberts. Okay, go ahead, Luke.
I love Tom Jones. We respect the king. He's holding it down.
Well, and he brought the Tom Jones thing because I did say something to the Beast. We were backstage on another show, and I said something to him about this. He loves Tom Jones, so I might as well get beat up with Luke. So he also loves to do the Carlton dance. So
you can see the slight smile on Luke's face before you even said that. He's like, I know it's coming.
We might as well go out together on this. So
that is true.
I want to know how many likes or follows we have to get to not only have him sing or do anything to a Tom Jones song, but if we can literally get him to do the Carlton to to his unusual.
You and Tom Jones.
I told him, and I trapped him. I didn't get him on the air trap, but I did trap him and got him to say, he says, I probably will do it at the Hall of Fame when I get inducted. I said, so you got to be there to see it. That's all I can tell you.
Very true.
Yeah, we do have, actually, speaking of the Beast, that is next week's special guest. We got the Beast coming on next week. Tommy over here is super excited about that.
Oh, I got the questions. I'm ready. I love you guys, but I've done my research on the Beast.
Okay,
and I'm like,
yeah, well, we got some backstage stories. Like I said, Luke said, when you do one of those uncensored ones, then we can talk about me and the Beast and a couple other things, but we got to keep it PG here.
We're always uncensored.
It's all business right now with the executive director, but the next
I'm gonna turn Luke loose here in a minute because he loves talking about these things, and I don't want to tie him down too long. I can see him itching in his seat already. He's gonna pop if I don't let him talk soon. But my thing was, when we did the hall was to get these kind of people into the hall. And I started this in 2018. It was just me, myself, and I. And I put this board together, and we've been popping ever since. I even did it during the COVID. They had them come into a podcast to get their plaques and stuff. So, but I don't want to hold Luke too much. If I don't tag him in, you see, he's going to wet his seat, and his wife's going to yell at me, and I don't want to yell.
Well, Jim, when you sit there and you talk about the class of 2026, I mean, again, there is such a huge variety of individuals going in. I mean, you've got the likes of a Beast. You've got the likes of, and actually I'm going to go right off the top with our 2 President Award winners. You have Johnny Ramirez, a man who for years not only competed on the local level, but also competed with countless different promotions. I know in his promo package that we released, he had matches from places like WWA. He had matches from up in the Chicago area. I mean, he traveled all over the place. The other one is receiving a President's Award this year is the valedictorian Keon Option, a man who sadly had a very short career, 6 years in the wrestling industry, but he had done so much outside of the ring. I mean, the man had been part of the NAACP, master's degree in college. He ran for public office. He was a Army National Guard candidate. And again, 2 great men receiving those. But then when you look at the rest of the inductees, you've got a Tom Simon who spent nearly 30 plus years in the industry. You name it, he's done it.
He's really excited about this. I've been talking to him, not trying to cut you off, Luke, but he's excited. And we were talking, and some of the things we were talking about, that's going to be one to tune in for.
Very true. Very true.
To tune in for, though.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, you've got Butch Fletcher, a man who, and I'll level with you. If it wouldn't have been for Butch Fletcher, I don't know if I'm here today. I had gotten a college degree. I had finished things up, and I was thinking, okay, maybe it's time for me to close up the suitcase and call it a career. And Butch managed to get me back in as a referee, as an announcer, and it just kind of kept rolling from there. You got Marcus Mansfield, a man who started multiple promotions. Interesting side note, was one of the men who was there in the very early training days of a gentleman by the name of Angus King. Most people who don't know him can go back and look at the WWE Hall of Fame induction speeches and realize that Angus King was Kane. And Marcus Mansfield traveled a lot of the roads with him. You have wrestlers the likes of Big Bad Ben, the man who, for those that are very, very familiar with professional wrestling, without a Big Bad Ben, you don't have a Dingo, you don't have a Mischief, you don't have a Daisy Hole, you don't have a Delirious, you don't have a Matt Sydal, among others. And last but not least in the list, you've got Steve Montana, a man who basically, to quote Joey Styles, he has arms like legs and legs like people. I mean, he's a man that he has to get his shirts custom fitted. But the ironic thing is he took a wrestling career into the world of professional acting. And much like one of our inductees last year, Steve Sharp, shout out to Steve Sharp, by the way. You can catch him in a lot of different films under the name Bishop Stevens. Matter of fact, Steve Montana is actually a member of the Screen Actors Guild and has been actually he's on location filming a movie, if my understanding is correct. And somewhere down the road, when he comes on the program, I believe they're hoping to finish to be wrapping up whenever he comes on the program later.
I got a hold of him briefly. I did get a hold of him briefly. So our guest coming on after this one, and I'm just throwing this out there right now for the guests coming on from June to July. You better bring your A game, because this is, no pun intended, this is some big time stuff right now. Mm-hmm. So next Tuesday we have the Beast. I'm gonna have to try to suck up and do my best Tom Jones impersonation. I got it. Tuesday, June 23rd, we have Steve Montana on. Tuesday, June 30th, we have Butch Fletcher. Then going into July, we're going to take a little break for the holiday. Tuesday, July 7th, we have Tom Simon. And then to round it out, we actually have the first female brave enough to come onto the Chatterhead floor. We have Nikki. I can't say that name, the last name, for the life of me. I can't spell.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
So Shaughnessy.
Thank you. Okay.
Just call her Kim Chi. She knows who she is.
Okay. And again, thank you guys so much for letting us be a part of this. Hopefully next year we can actually come down for the actual event. But it's kind of crazy to see the popularity of, like, from independent wrestling to actually the want and the desire for, like, an independent Hall of Fame, whether you're in Illinois or St. Louis. Do you think it's more beneficial for the unsung heroes to get their flowers than it is to have like your guys' the Independent St. Louis Hall of Fame to give the men and women, the unsung heroes, their flowers rather than the bigger names?
Well, here's the deal, and I'm sorry, Luke. Let me.
He's coming up strong on this one.
I got to stay honest. But on this, here's my deal, and the reason I did this was because one thing you always got to remember: there is no WWE, there is no AEW, Ring of Honor, none of those guys without the independent group. So if you didn't have, they all started at some group somewhere, no matter where it was at. They started off as an independent wrestler, didn't know nothing, and had to go in and train like everybody else did. A lot were backyarders. That's why we were trying to pull the backyarders in to train them professionally so nobody would get injured. And then when they go to these big shows, what happens when it's over, they're let go, and no other show wants them anymore? Where do they go back to? They come back to the independent show. So one of the things I always said, be humble about where you started. Be humble while you're there, and because you need to come back somewhere down the line. You should be humble when you come back. And the problem is, we always forget the people that helped push them or worked with them, helped train them to get them to where they're at. And without those people, you don't exist, because then you would not have the training. And it's not just, our hall's not just the wrestlers themselves. We also put in managers, people that work behind the scenes, the guys working on the cameras. We got a Jerry Bullion Award, which is a fan award. We got fans that go to every single independent show they can go to. You'll see their faces everywhere you go. And that's how I got my 1-2-5. Jerry Bullion used to sit in the front row and give me grief every day. He used to have me all the time. Hey, ref, can't you see? You blind? You want my glasses? He used to always hand me his glasses up. And then he says, can't you count? I said, yeah, 1, 2, 5. And then he goes,
that's a big 5. That's a massive 5, my friend.
And as soon as I did that,
can't count past 2, so.
As soon as I did that, he started the chant. So every time I would come out to the ring, he goes, all right, Jimmy, 1, 2, 5. And all the fans would start doing it in the front row with him. So, that's how you know you're reaching your testimony. But then that shows that those were the type of people we want to appreciate and say thank you for what you did to make us what we did. Because when I started this business, I didn't get paid. I got paid with beer, soda, and a hot dog.
That's a good trade-off.
I didn't want, but by the time I got done putting it put it back up, all I got was I didn't get the hot dog. I got barely a soda. So, that's the way it was. The veterans got all the good stuff. I got what was left over. But you know what? That's part of the respect of having the ring. Just like when I see a wrestler go up to a ring, doesn't wipe their feet before they go into the ring, that shows me that you have no respect for the business or the ring. So, that's why we did what I did, and that's why we have the awards we have, just like the Black Heart Award for the guys that, like the President Award is, where people were coming in, they trained really hard, they got injured, hurt, or couldn't do it anymore, but because they kept giving back to the business, they would get that award just for that purpose. All right, Luke, I probably talked more than I ever talked about.
And Jim, I'm gonna agree with you 100% on that. When you look at the professional wrestling scene in St. Louis, I mean, again, you go all the way back into the days of Sam Muchnick. There were so many wrestlers who came through St. Louis. As Ric Flair has said countless times, St. Louis was a mecca and still is a mecca of professional wrestling, because you knew if you made it here, you had done something in your career. And when you look at these wrestlers who are going in, and I mean, I'm sitting back when you look at the first class and you look at Tony Costa and Herb Simmons, two men who, without question, a lot of professional wrestling promotions to this day don't exist if you don't have a Tony Costa, you don't have a Herb Simmons. And then it goes on to looking at some of these wrestlers, talking about the likes of one that pops in my head is Dr. Blood, who is known throughout the St. Louis scene and throughout the Midwest as Buddy Frankenstein, a man who went out there, and actually I was able, when I was first training, I saw 8mm footage of him going an hour with Harley Race for the NWA World Championship and coming back and being able to compete and give his knowledge. And then when you look at the last couple of years and you've seen all these people who contributed so much to the wrestling industry, to me, the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is one of those where there are a lot of them, and I'm just going to take a second. We talked about it before we went live. This right here is always on display at our event. And the reason why is because there are wrestlers that have held championship belts, who've held championship belts all around this planet. But yet there are wrestlers who never got a chance to wrestle for a title. There were people who never got in the ring, but did so much for the wrestling industry that it gives them the opportunity to be at the top of the game, to be recognized as a true champion, as a legend, as a pioneer for this industry. And I'll tell you right now, since going into the Hall of Fame, every time I go to a promotion, even if I'm not working and being a part of an event, if I'm not contractually obligated to be at an event, I have wrestlers come up to me, hey, Luke, did you see this? Did you see this? What can I do to take it to the next level? What can I do this? And again, our Hall of Fame is those that are allowing the fans and allowing fellow wrestlers across all promotions to gain that knowledge. It's another chance to sit under the proverbial learning tree. And I'll tell you, on July 19th, Sunday, July 19th, at Andres Banquet Center in South St. Louis, you're going to have an opportunity to hear the stories, to hear what makes these individuals tick, what made pro wrestling so important to them. And I'm going to tell you right now, the buzz is there. Last year alone, the Tragos Hall of Fame sent their acknowledgments. The Missouri State Athletic Commission sent their acknowledgement. Last year, we actually had Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame Day in the city of St. Louis.
Oh wow, that's wow.
And to give you an idea, more and more that the fans have been supporting this, the wrestlers have been supporting this, the promoters have been supporting this, the sponsors have been supporting this. It's only growing bigger and bigger by the day. And this isn't one of those situations where you got to fork out hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to be able to be involved with these individuals. These individuals literally could be at the same table as you, and you could hear these stories and hear that. It's such a, I mean, it's the big fan fest experience on a very, very personable level. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're anywhere near St. Louis, you need to make it a point on Sunday, July 19th. To buy your tickets. You get a meal, you get to see the induction, and who knows who else is going to turn out. Last year, we had promotions from all across St. Louis. We had fans. It was a sellout. And I'll tell you right now, tickets are moving. You need to make sure you get them, and you can get tickets online, istlwhof.com, and we'll have that here later on in the show as well. You can purchase your tickets online, get it taken care of, get it done. Great meal and great wrestling. Can't go wrong with that.
Now,
beautiful.
Jim, you said previously at one point in the show that when this all started, it was you, yourself, and I. Hearing that from Luke and how this whole brainchild has grown into its own entity. What does that do for you? What type of feeling does that give you?
Well, it was amazing because when I did this, and I don't knock anybody else's stuff. I believe you do what you got to do for your promotions, and that's awesome. A lot of promotions have their own Hall of Fames. I think that's awesome. That's the way it should be. The fans know those people. But what I wanted to do was reach out and recognize that STL in wrestling is just that. If it weren't for the STL, you don't have wrestling. So we were a hub, and a lot of people came through us. I learned from guys like Ed Smith, Larry Matizak, who took me under his wing along with Herb Simmons and Tony Costa, who gave me my first shot to get into the business. A lot of these groups, when you come in and you see what's going on, so we need to recognize everybody. And I used to have a bunch of different people messaging me, well, if you're going to do a hall, you need to do this, 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 this. But then when you watch what they were doing, so what you're doing is like what you're telling me not to do. So I'm like, I got to make this unique. I got to make an experience that these people deserve. And that's what we did. So when it started off, we did it in the ring. But then as it was going, I said, no, I want a venue. I want them to have a venue where it's about the wrestlers. It's not about the matches that are going on. And we make it fan friendly where the fans can get tickets and come to it if they want, and see them get put in. And so, as COVID went by, and I said, okay, now I want to start getting things back to where they can come. And I hooked up with Andres for the first one at Andres, and we were in a side room, and we actually sold out. I actually had to put more money out because I had more people eating food than was expected. So we had to put some more money out. I said, okay, we got to make this bigger hall, And so the second run, we were in the same spot again. Again, we sold out, but this time I had the numbers right. And on the third one, we ended up going to the bigger hall. Thank God we did, because we packed it. We packed it with the stage and everything. And this year, we're expecting the same result. And like I said, for me, it made me feel good because some of the guys that we were putting in were in bad shape. Their health was bad. Billy, one of our guys, Billy, that we put in, he's early in the first one at Andres we did. He was actually in a wheelchair and had to use a device to talk. That's how bad he was. Oh. And his wife was tickled to death that we did this and brought them in and gave him a chance to use his device to talk and thank everybody. And his wife reached out to us and let us know that was the happiest moment of his life, that we did something that made his day bright and made her day even brighter. So that means you accomplished something, that you're giving back to what was given to you. When we trained, our agreement was we had to give 5 years to the promotion that you trained at. Back in the day, it was very much territorial, and you just didn't up and leave a promotion because we're training you for free. And the only other thing we ask is that you pass it on. And that's what we did for years. Pass it on. We weren't charging people. We were passing on the training and teaching people how to do what we did. And so for me, it's to give back to those people that gave to me. And I got put into the Hall of Fame by the board of directors because I wasn't concerned about getting into the Hall of Fame. So that's why you see that I'm way back in the years of going into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. That's because the directors put me in. I didn't ask for it. I didn't request it. I'm more like, let's get other people in that we know are still around or their families are still around, and so we can honor them. And so that's how this came about.
I think that's what drawn, like when Luke messaged us, and I'm a big Hall of Fame guy. I've always believed no matter what sport you do it. I hate the fact that WWE puts in guys that are, and I don't want this to come out the way it's going to sound, that are more relevant than the guys and the ladies that should be. There are more people that should be in it than, say some of the, prime example, there are guys like Brian Pillman that did what he did. He wasn't as big, but they would rather go with the popular star. And what you guys are doing, I'll back that, 6 ways from Sunday until the cows come home. Because like you guys both said, without these men and women, we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be doing what we do with professional wrestling. So, giving them their flowers and hearing the history of your Hall of Fame baby is what it is. I'm extremely blessed to be a part of this. And you know, if this goes well and we don't make the Beast mad next week, hopefully next year we'll be actually able to come down and actually see this, because you know it sounds like a lot of fun. You know, I got family that lives in the Ozarks, so you know I'm always down to take a road trip.
Hey, I totally get you. You know, I'm going to share something here on the Midweek Meltdown I don't think I've ever shared with anybody before. I might have told Jim. The first pair of professional wrestling boots I ever owned were from the late Bill Shields.
Holy shit!
That's
You talk about paying it forward. Yeah. Bill Shields was the man that sold me my first pair of wrestling boots back far too many years ago.
You don't want to give that number, do you? You don't want to give that number?
because I'll level with you. If I told you the first time I ever officially stepped in a ring for a match, you'd probably sit there and go, "You're lying through your teeth." But you know what? You drug it out of me. My first in-ring match.
We just twisted.
My first in-ring match was March of '95, and I had been around wrestling for nearly 6 years before them, doing stuff outside the ring, running ring jackets, running sound, helping with selling merchandise. By the time I had been in the ring, I mean, again, I had seen it from all points of view, but again, as Jim said, paying it forward to the wrestlers who bring professional wrestling to the next generation and to generations to come to make pro wrestling what it is today here in St. Louis and around the world. And it all pays tribute at 2026 Indepednet St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I was only 3 years old in '95.
Well,
I was 5.
I was only 3.
Remember Power Rangers?
I started in 1985 when I started.
Wait, when you started in '85?
Yeah, 1985 when I started, and I drug my poor wife and kids into it in '96 to help me ring bells and run audio and stuff. So,
but you wouldn't change that for the world, though. You wouldn't.
Oh no, I love what I did. Like I said, we weren't getting paid hardly anything. You know, hell, you got $20 for gas, you were lucky. You know.
And you know, I want to.
$20 for gas back then was phenomenal, though.
Yeah, that lasted me a month. Yeah.
I get asked that all the time, and I'm like you guys. I don't want to peel back the curtain too much, but I get asked that question a lot because, you know, like I said, we do a lot with RPW. They let us come in, and everybody does that question. Well, what does that make? Like, what do you get paid? I get to be a part of wrestling. You know, I go in with our other co-host. He's actually not here right now. He's too busy watching the Vegas Knights game. But them hockey fans are different. But you want to know what? We get to go in and we help set up. We get to be a part of what we love to do, and they let us do secondary commentary. You know, so we.
Yeah,
and you.
It's like what my wife said when she goes to them, she fan watches because you get to watch all the craziness of the fans. You know, so that was our reward.
And again, I don't need money. Like, I get to be around people who love the entity of professional wrestling. I get to see the inner workings of all this new talent. And some of the guys I've known throughout the years, but a lot of these guys coming in just to see how they process everything.
Yeah. Okay, can I give a side note? A side note?
Oh, boy.
We like money, so if you want to give us, I love wrestling. I'll do it for free, but yeah, I love money.
We all do, but
that's
see it.
I do it for free all day, but
no. And that's the thing. I think people get it twisted. Wrestling isn't about the money. It's about the love of it. You know, I got to witness my niece. She just turned 9. She just had her first wrestling heartbreak.
But money.
Now, hold on. She's new. One of the fan favorites of RPW. Her name is Maya Carras. She's absolutely talented as all get out. She holds her best with the boys. She may have done the infamous heel turn. And my niece had tears in her eyes going, I can't believe I bought her shirt and she's putting her shirt on over it. I'm going, and that's why I love this.
Yeah, that's what makes it worthwhile.
Oh, it does.
You're gonna get your heart broken either way.
Yeah, and that's what I say. It's amazing. You get to do that. One of the things when I came to commissioner was I instituted once a year. We collected teddy bears from the fans. It's like bringing in a teddy bear. And first, I didn't think it was going to take off. And that first time we did it, I had 2 tables full of teddy bears.
What?
And
how many bears can you fit in your hands?
Not many as you think. Yeah.
It looks like a good amount.
Right there.
It depends on how you squeeze them.
And we ended up walking out with, I want to say about 3 or 4 big trash bags full of bears.
Oh, wow.
And what we did with those, though, were we took them all to all the first responders in the local area. So we took them to police, fire department. And the idea was for them to give them out to children that were affected by trauma.
So I've actually worked in EMS, and that's a big thing. So, like, from a side view of being in the medical field, I appreciate that because it does help with children because they have something to hold on to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, Thank you.
That was my way of giving back to what the fans had given to us.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of free shows. We did a lot of shows. I did shows with Herb Simmons and Tony when we went to different little towns and stuff, and we did free shows, and they were doing bike giveaways, backpack giveaways, and stuff. And we did a lot of those type of things, and that's what makes it worthwhile to see a child smile and know that we paid attention. I gotta give a shout out to the Mount Thomas before I go any farther. Yeah. His name is Shaft. I see him in the chat, so I'm going to say I don't want to say I didn't say his name.
Yeah. So if you're ever giving away a motorcycle, like keep me in mind. Like you
don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that.
Yeah, you did take away my card.
We do have restrictions. You're above age. You're okay.
On paper,
I have the mentality of a 6-year-old. So give me a motorcycle.
And it always seems funny to me, and maybe it's just how my brain works. Everybody always kind of seem to snicker or laugh when you say you're a wrestling fan. But when you do stuff like you guys, like you were just talking about, like giving back, a lot of the independent wrestling promotions do so much. You see them doing like a toy drive or a charity event. Is that just something that puts the independent wrestling scene above everything else? Because not only are they giving the fans like a moment of freedom, a moment of clarity, but they're also saying, okay, we're going to give you our blood, sweat, and tears, but then we're also going to do this for the community.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes them stand out now because of that reason, because we do give back to the communities. And if you look at a lot of the different groups out there, you're seeing a lot of that going on with a lot of different groups. And it's such a blessing to be able to do that. And that's what keeps fans wanting to come back because say, hey, look, they're willing to give, and we're not paying outrageous money. You're not paying $150 to sit in the nosebleed section.
Oh, I paid that. Like it was almost $400 at the Allstate for elimination chamber in the nosebleed.
So you think about that, and one of the things that Tony and Herb, Tony especially, Costa, used to preach in the locker room, every seat is a front row seat. So when you go out there, you give your all, and you make it work, and you better make contact. Because I used to yell at the guys all the time, you throw a chop and I can see a truck could drive through it, we got a problem. You're not even close. So, wrestling is a little bit of pain. That's what we signed up for.
Yeah.
If you've been around our guys that love to chop, you would understand that.
I hate chops.
Jim,
I've gotten some chops.
Well, Jim, one thing to look at too, and again, I've seen it a lot in the last 2 years as well, with promotions that, you talk about how doing backpack drives and collecting the teddy bears. I remember one Dynamo Pro Wrestling, and I'm gonna level. I'm completely pulling the curtain here for a minute.
It's gone.
Back in the late 2000s, my wife, after years of trying, found out that we were expecting our first children. and found out we were going to have twins, and unfortunately we lost them at 20 weeks. And I was sitting, I was down, I didn't know how to pull myself up. And again, the professional wrestling community stepped up, and we did at Dynamo Pro, we did a charity event to raise money for that organization. And to see the outpouring of love and support, not just from the wrestlers, but from the community. That's one thing. Wrestling is a great performance. It's the opportunity for wrestlers to go out there, as we say, to put the blood, sweat, and tears out there, to put the miles on the road. But to see the communities come together for good causes like Share Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support, like the American Heart Association, like first responders, like different food banks, different jacket drives. I mean, you name it, to see the community being able to come back and be together with those individuals. Some of these wrestlers, I don't want to say some, all of them have a certain level of superhero in them. But for true fans of the industry to be able to be alongside of them and say, let's help our community, let's make this world a better place, those kinds of things are truly one of the greatest things, I would say, in the wrestling industry. Not just as the WWE says, putting smiles on people's faces in the ring. You also got to look at it from a perspective of being able to see one of those kids who buys a T-shirt or buys an autographed picture or wants to take a picture with you, or the idea of them running around, look, I got so-and-so's autograph. And that's one of the greatest things in the world, is because for that time, as Jim said earlier on, you suspend disbelief. You could be having the worst day in the world, but these men and women go out there each and every time to make that a reality. And again, I can't say anymore. That's why I love the sport of professional wrestling all day long about pro wrestling. But you know what? Pro wrestling is right here. It's been here for nearly 40 years. It ain't going anywhere. And this organization and all these great promotions, that's what makes wrestling so important today.
You know, I want to share this. One of our biggest fans, and her name is Hannah. RPW had Joe Hendry out last year, and super nice guy. And I remember, and I'm not trying to put her on the spot, but I remember seeing Hannah meet Joe Hendry. The smile on her face was just intoxicating, and that's what, you know. And it's great to see it, you know. And you know, like we discussed earlier, it keeps the family connected. Whether, you know, you pass it down to your kids, and they, you know, it's something that everybody kind of, it's still kind of taboo, but you can go, and I'm sure we're going to talk to Steve Montana about this, but like, you can go anywhere in the world and mention the name Hogan, Flair, Piper, Taker,
Andre, and you automatically, even if you're not a wrestling fan, you sit and go, I know that. Like, and it's you know, I love it. You know, and I'm never gonna go away. I've slowly got my girlfriend into wrestling now. We've been together for a year and a half. No, she's never got one of mine into it.
A year and a half.
There's days my wife would yell at me, go, oh, we got that damn wrestling tonight. Had to cancel the
So her first ever event, again, we were at an RPW show, and we're sitting in the bleachers, and you know, they're telling me, hey, we're gonna come out this way, make sure all the little kids are clear. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, babe, you're gonna want to move. No, I'll be fine. She's sitting there on a bleacher, and the dude's head is like right next to her lap, and she's staring at me. I'm like, told you should have moved. Yeah. Oh, and she goes all the time now.
Well, we got one that we did for years, and I traveled with him to Tennessee and stuff. And Luke already knows where I'm going. Moondog Rover. Moondog Rover. He trained with the Moondogs, and they named him Rover, and he carried that with him over there. And he would always go out, and I always had to chase him around the ring because he'd go grab a fan's shoe and take it from him. And then he'd run around the ring and make him argue back and forth over a damn shoe to give the shoe back. And then he'll get down on all fours and look at him, throw the shoe down and lift his leg like he's peeing on it. And I have to chase him away and get away from it.
Sometimes the most
you know. And he's on my board of directors, by the way. so
Did you ever steal your shoe just to give you shit?
Yeah, and I used to just grab it like, here you go, here's your shoe bag. I grab by the string and hand it back to him. And then when he wouldn't leave, I had to grab him by his hair and pull him out of the ring and walk him out of the ring like I'm holding his hair is the leash, and I got to pull him out of the ring.
Luke's working over there. Luke's dead over there. Luke is just dying.
So one day we have to get the dog on here with you, but I don't know. He might bark more and talk to you, but we can see about trying to get him on.
No, it's quite all right because one of my other co-hosts, his name is Jake. He's a diehard Georgia fan, so he'll sit here and he'll bark every once in a while. Again, we are
Alabama, baby.
Well, he'll fit in. He'll show you his nice big bone he likes to carry around with him.
Hey, I'm all for it. Like, I think it's great. I'm extremely excited for the rest of the guests. They got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Well, and the problem was Moondog would do that to the wrestlers too. He'd hike his leg on them, or he'd chew them on the fingers, and I might have egged him on a little bit, but not too much.
No, never.
I'm the nice guy. I would never do that.
From what I've seen, Jim's the innocent referee at this point.
Thank you.
I can't even with that. Tommy, you're not allowed to pee on anybody's shoe.
Jesus.
Well, you
wouldn't do that in the first place. What are you talking about?
Luke is biting at his fingers. I gotta let him talk now.
No, if you're gonna share the Moondog story, I gotta share one we talked about at the board meeting this past week, and I would be remiss. Midweek Meltdown. One of the very few times in professional wrestling, I've been around wrestling a long time. One of the very few times I didn't know where to go after this. I was refereeing a match, and there's a gentleman here in St. Louis, and he haven't had a chance to catch his footage. Gentleman's name is Billy McNeil. He's a man who can do anything. He never ages. I mean, he can do the moves he was doing 25 years ago. He still does them today. And I mean, again, just the epitome of smooth. I was refereeing one night, and when the referee, just like a big John McCarthy in the world of MMA, it's like, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's ring the bell. I go to his opponent. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? And you figure he's going to say yes. He's like, no. I look over there, and I'm like, okay, why not? So he signals me over, turns around, puts his head down for a minute, just kind of like wipes his nose. I'm like, okay, this is not going to bode well. Turns around, slams something in my hand. I'm like, what is this? And I look, and he had handed me his front 4 top teeth.
Holy shit.
And now I'm ready. And then goes out there and delivers a 20-minute masterpiece.
Holy shit.
And again, that's one of the great things about professional wrestling is you never know what's going to happen, where it's going to happen. The best way to summarize it is I liken it a lot of times, even though you've got these big, burly, tough, strong men and women, a lot of times locker rooms are like junior high schools.
Oh my God, it's great.
All day.
It truly is. And I've been in a couple locker rooms, and you will hear the slightest thing. You're in my seat. Well, you could sit on my lap if you want it so bad. And everybody just kind of stops and goes, okay, this is where we're going with it. And a lot of the times the referees get the brunt of it because they like to try to break the referees.
All the time.
I have seen everything. I've never seen teeth. I mean, I've seen it where the talent checks the referee for whatever may be there.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the episode, I asked right off the get-go, Mount Rushmore. Mr. Big Time Jim Harris. Mount Rushmore of referees.
Oh, Lord.
Ooh.
There it goes.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's a list there. Man. Well, my mentor, definitely Ed Smith. I would definitely have to put him up there. I've watched a lot of his stuff at the Chase, and then what he taught me along the way was just amazing. Gosh, it's kind of hard to say because I worked with both the Hebners. So,
which one was your favorite?
I got a kick out of Dave. Dave was a card. Earl was pretty awesome too. But I said Dave was probably my favorite. I like Dave. And then, gosh, I remember who was that? Bronco Lubitsch. I remember him.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna have to look those.
Bronco was interesting. He's a lot of the WCCW matches. And it seemed like he always is in the middle of something. He always got tied up into something, caught up into something. So he was another one that I had to put up there. I'm trying to think of my last one because there's so many of them. Jesus. I don't know. I had to think of that last one because, like I said, there's so many of them that I got a chance to work with, to be around, and I could go back to, well, even Teddy Long refereed for a while.
He did.
He's a very interesting referee, and some of the stuff that he did, I was kind of doing. So I could put a Teddy Long on there in that last one.
One of the last couple of questions I have: why, and both of you can answer for this one. Why do you think the referees don't get as much respect as they should? I mean, they're in there; they share just as much spotlight as the talent, and without them, you really essentially wouldn't have a match.
Well, for me, it was the referees have to earn the respect of the wrestlers. And part of that was showing up to practice. Part of that was working as hard as they were working. Part of that was learning the moves and the holds like they were learning. So I was doing backflips and jumps and all that craziness in my younger, stupider days. And
I think you still got some of those days left in you. I think we can make something happen.
You had to have their respect. And then part of that, too, was after every match, I go up and shake their hand and say, thank you for that match. Allow me to be in that match. And thank you for teaching me something in that match. So my thing was you try to learn something every match and everything to a point where you kind of start knowing the wrestlers and they start knowing you to the point where they liked you enough. They actually go along with them on trips because they want you to be their referee because they knew you knew what you were doing. A lot of the referees now, I don't see a whole lot of independence. And when I say that is they're not their own person, they haven't figured out how they want to be referee wise. Like when you watch a lot of my old stuff, you'll never see me pull a 3. Never. I'll pull my shoulder out before I pull a 3. So I was probably one of the few referees that rolled. So if you got shoulder up enough, I'll roll that 3 and come up with a 2. And if I slapped a 3, well, that was the end of the match, whether that was the ending or not. So, I was pretty consistent with my counts and stuff. So the people don't get the respect because they don't go out and earn the respect, some of them. But some of it is that a lot of these younger guys coming in, and Luke, you have to stop me if I get too carried away. But
he's enjoying this. He's enjoying this.
Well, when I was doing the training, a lot of these guys would come in. The first thing I was, well, teach me how to go off the top rope. I said, whoa. No. You got to learn how to crawl before you start flying. And I said, dude, give me 5 minutes in the ring like I was trained to do and don't touch a rope and give me a 5-minute match. And they couldn't do it. So
that's just
you can't do it. Then how do you expect to go on top rope and fly? Because not everything is a high fly. Stop watching TV. Start learning.
To put it that way, one of the things I was always taught, again, this is from the South Broadway mentality, but I've kind of adapted it from the years of being in the ring. A good referee can make a main event a WrestleMania match. A bad referee can take a WrestleMania main event like Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker and flush it down the toilet.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I sit there and I look at. We talk about a referees Hall of Fame on a national level. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, to me, I look at it from the likes of a Tommy Young, a Nick Patrick, a Johnny Red Shoes Dugan. I'll tell you right now, Bronco Lubitsch is one that was there. Scrappy McGowan kind of registers in there with me. A Joey Morella. I mean, when it comes down to it, referees, a lot of wrestlers think, oh, well, you're wearing the stripes. You don't matter. But the fact is, when you look at somebody, the likes of a on a local scene, like a Jim Harris, like a Tom Simon, like a Luke Roberts, like a Michael Grace, who spent years and years and years in the wrestling industry, and you get those opportunities. I mean, again, I look at it from my generation. The idea where I had the opportunity when St. Louis really started bringing in names for a promotion that's now St. Louis Anarchy. The first name they brought in, it was a gentleman by the name of Nightmare Nick Tyson, who was an original of the LWA, which I believe was WCWF before it was LWA, before Anarchy, going against Alex Shelley.
That's a big name.
And to be the one to be in that ring, that shows that they had the trust in me to do what was there. Just like my friend Michael Crace, shout out to Crace, another one of those who's one day going to be in Hall of Fame. He has had the opportunity to officiate actual NWA World Championship changes when Colt Cabana defeated Scrap Iron Adam Pearce for the NWA World Heavyweight title. That was a Michael Crace deal. And when it comes down to it, referees have to pay their dues just like everybody else. You have to know what's going on. You have to know what's there, because if you don't, there's two people in the ring having a match, sometimes four, sometimes more than four in this day and age. But a referee can take the greatest thing on paper, wad it up, throw it in a ball, and throw it in a trash can, just like that.
And that goes back to the promoters trusting you too, because the promoter knows you're going to do what needs to be done. Because a lot of the meetings, the promoter say, what that referee says, you better listen and do, because he says that match is done, it's done. So, you had to know the crowd. You know how to play the crowd. You had to know how to say, hey, look, you're losing the crowd. Pick it up or we're going home. You got to get it going. We actually got a referee here in St. Louis who's actually a veterinarian. He's also a ninja. He actually does train. He trains in Hong Kong and stuff with the Masters. Okay. He carries the belts. He does it all. He is truly a true, what they call ninja. He travels all over the place.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jim, I believe he's a third degree Dan black belt.
Oh, right.
He's a veterinarian by trade. He's worked with exotic animals all around the world. Right. He's climbed and traveled up Mount Fuji in Japan. He's had an opportunity to compete in wrestling matches on 3 different continents. He's had an opportunity to be all around there, and one of just the genuinely nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. But inside that ring, another one too, and I know Jim had a gentleman had a major heart.
Let's say his name. So we're talking about.
Jay. Well, let's go ahead and throw it. One ring only to wrestling ref Jay King. Matter of fact, and Jim remembers this, he actually had a heart condition. Actually had to have heart surgery.
Oh wow.
And within like 2 months, he's back in the ring, and without even missing a beat, he's still hands down one of, if not the best in St. Louis, because the idea of where if you don't listen to what he says, either A, he's going to ring the bell, or B, he's going to kick you in the side of the face.
Yeah. I don't want to get kicked in the side of the face by any means. It's not it. You would. I can't with you, Tom. Like, come on, dude.
Youth Gone Wild's gonna murder me, so
they will probably. So one of my, it's getting to the 2-hour mark. We're gonna. I'm sure, Tommy, you got a question for him?
No, they've covered everything pretty much that I want to hear.
I'm surprised he hasn't given us an update on the Golden Knights game.
Oh no!
I'm not a Golden Knights fan, but let's check it out.
Oh God, no! I really don't care. I'm not.
Well, we're Blackhawks.
We're talking wrestling.
Sorry, Pony Boy. This is what happens when I bring Luke with me.
Hey, you know what? I've been
look now, though.
I got it. Tim, I got it.
Up. Okay,
we're
so it's 3-3 against the Carolina Hurricanes. So we are. Where the fuck are we? Sorry, we're in part 2 at 6:17 right now.
We'll give you an idea. I just realized something, Jim, and you know this very well for being around the scene. I think we've officially found, as we're getting ready to wrap this up here tonight on the Midweek Meltdown with Tables, Ladders, and Chatter, and make it a point to follow them on Facebook and on the YouTube. Make sure to give those like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that kind of stuff. I think we found an official 3rd member of the Pony Club from the MMWA.
I think so.
Jada, the Avatar of Excellence, Dr. Dallas Stevens, the Doctor of Decades. Well, no. I got to share this story. We were there, and this tag team has always been one of those. They're going to poke fun at everybody, and at the time, and they still are, one of the biggest bad guy groups is a group called PYT Inc. Now, a lot of people might consider that back in the days in the South with the likes of Coco Beware and others. But they came out.
Shit. Tom just did something right. Wow.
Yeah, I love that Michael Jackson song. Are you kidding?
This group comes out. They're in their locker room getting ready. It was a 6-man. It was a matchup, and they came out to the song "Pink Pony Club."
I hate that song so much.
No. The crowd goes completely insane. They come out with the mini horses. And now this team that everybody was basically nothing short of wanting to boo is now 2 of the most beloved wrestlers on the entire roster because of willing to go that far outside the box. And I'm going to tell you right now, one of them has a graphic with a mini horse. The other one's trying to petition to get one with him riding a purple hippo. Maybe we can get Pony Boy included in that. I don't know about Tom because he's more focused on the Knights, but that's okay because it is.
Well, you know what? I will say this: if that happens, get me riding. Like my spirit animal is a flamingo. I'll ride in on a flamingo.
Well, you'll fit in because they wear pink when they come out, so it worked.
Definitely going to have to do this again, gentlemen. I do have the link for the ticket sales. I will definitely put that in the info bio. Again, like, follow, subscribe. The Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Definitely going to have to come down next year. I'm going to put it in my calendar for work, to come down.
I might have to too.
Yeah,
I might have to too.
And then if you gentlemen ever get a wild hair and want to take a road trip, you want to come up and see an RPW show, I'll make sure you guys are well taken care of.
Gentlemen,
that'd be awesome.
It would be most definitely a privilege. And again, guys, when you have the opportunity over the next several weeks, Midweek Meltdown, Tables, Ladders, and Chatter, make it a point to check them out. They're going to have all the next few weeks going to be inductees of the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2026. A great night was had tonight. Great nights are going to be had leading up to the Hall of Fame on Sunday, July 19th. And guys, I got to tell you, pro wrestling is alive and well around the world. And again, it's an honor and a privilege to be here on the program tonight.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for sharing 2 hours of your careers with us down memory lane. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the 2026 Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. I got it. We have Hall of Fame inductees: Big Time Jim Harris, Luke Roberts. Make sure you like their page. Massive fucking hands. You want to know what? I got
fucking hands.
Baby hand. Like I don't even. I'm 6 foot 300 pounds.
I am also 6 foot 300 pounds.
Right.
And always remember, gentlemen, 1, 2, 5.
Thank you again, gentlemen, so very much. We will be back next week with the Beast, and stay tuned for more. And like I said, thank you guys so much for letting us be a part of it this year, and looking forward to continually being a part of you guys.
Awesome. Welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. And like I said, it was an honor to be here, and we look forward to the next time we're around.
You'll be there.
Yep. Well, I'm excited. All right, Tommy, you know it.